So welcome back to Champ.ie's part 2 of the Dublin Racing Festival preview show featuring special guest Jack Kennedy. If you haven't already heard our catch up with Jack Kennedy ahead of the Dublin Racing Festival about the Elliott runners, have a listen. Delighted to feature jockey Jack Kennedy on the Champ.ie podcast ahead of the Dublin Racing Festival. Jack, let's start with Delta work.
I wouldn't swap him for anything else in the race myself. He's in good form at home, and the small field shouldn't be a problem to him. And so, yeah, I'd be hoping that he can regain his title. That'd be great.
Smaller field this time around. How do you envisage tactics? He seems an uncomplicated horse.
He is, yeah. I'll be able to go down to the start, and whatever way the race is working out, I'll be able to ride him accordingly, because he used to be a very keen horse, but he's after relaxing an awful lot now. So yeah, it shouldn't, if it gets tactical, he shouldn't be too complicated to ride.
Yeah, the opening race of the Dublin Racing Festival this year, of course, you ride Fakira for Gordy, and you know, you could have a match-up with your brother Paddy, who's also been on the Champ.ie podcast. A bit of a match-up there. He rides Ashdale Bob.
Yeah, the last time they met was in grade 2 in Navan, and I suppose the race didn't really suit my lad a whole lot. We went steady, and I got into a bad position on him, and he ended up flying home. Ashdale Bob was a very good winner that day, and then he went on and fell in meets. So I suppose, yeah, we probably looked like we could be two that maybe might be fighting it out. So it'd be brilliant for the two of us if that was the case.
And many mentioned, you know, Fakira as a potential Albert Bartlett type. Would you share that view? He looks like the further he goes, the better he is.
Yeah, without a doubt. I got beat over 2.5 and when flying home. So definitely, 3 miles will be his trip, and he stays very well, obviously. So yeah, he looks to be a nice type of horse for a race like that. Yeah.
And Abacadabras, of course, won the Margiana at Punchestown. Before, I suppose he disappointed at Christmas. We mentioned Gordon's horses did scope bad. Have you faith that we'll see a different horse? What's he working like at home, Jack?
Keith Dunhay rode him work the other day and was very happy with him. Obviously, it was very disappointing at Christmas, as were a lot of Gordon's horses. But the one thing I took out of the race was how well he jumped. I think he only might have made one slight mistake the whole way around. So he looks brushed up in his jumping, which needed to happen. So if he can jump like that and is back to himself, he should be thereabouts with the help of God.
And Gordon, of course, is chemical energy in the bumper. He's a horse I believe you guys like a lot as well.
He is, yeah. He's a very exciting horse. So hopefully he'll have to keep improving to prove himself as a proper horse. But we have plenty of faith in him anyway, so hopefully he can do that.
We'll come on to a couple of questions from Twitter later on, but Junes asks, how would he compare as a type of horse now to Sir Gerhard, who I think the plan is to go straight to Cheltenham with him?
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't have a lot to do with their work or anything, but they're both very exciting horses. But they're, like I said, they'll have to keep building on what they've done to be proper horses someday. Yeah,
absolutely. And Ballyadam, ahead of his rematch with Appreciated, does he show a lot at home, Jack?
He kind of only does what he has to do, but he works. He does most of his work with Abracadabras. So they're similar sort of horses, and they work well together. But he only really has to do he only does what he has to do. So yeah, he's back in good form again now. Anyway, yeah.
You don't feel appreciated?
I'd be hopeful that we can reverse the form at no point at all during the race. The last day was I ever happy on him. He normally travels very well. He wasn't doing that the last day, but suppose with the ground being heavy as well, might just be a little concerned for him. But yeah, I'd be hoping that he could get a lot closer, if not to reverse the form. I'd appreciate it, yeah.
And he's one, I presume, looking towards the Cheltenham Festival. You guys, you definitely think he's that class to be in the likes of a Supreme Novices hurdle.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's a very good horse. So yeah, he's held in high regard. So he would definitely be a supreme horse, yeah.
And sticking with Juvenile Park, as Quilixios, if I've pronounced that right, goes into Spring Juvenile, Jack. And you've rode both him and Zana here to victory. Are they different types of horses, and how?
Yeah, I suppose they are two different types of horses. I suppose I know a bit more about Zana here than I do of Quilixios. I've only ridden him once. I went in Down Royal. I went out and made the running on him, and probably didn't go that quick throughout the race, and he quickened up well down the straight. So he's a quick horse, and I think he'll stay as well. And I suppose Zanny here, I think might just edge it over him. But I suppose we'll learn a lot. We'll learn a lot at the weekend with the form of Joseph O'Brien's horse that was second to Zanny here at Christmas. So yeah, we'll learn plenty at the weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned Zana here, and he did come from Michael Halford's on the flat, won over a mile and a half, was lightly raced, Jack. I thought he done well the last day to win. I suppose it looked like he went a slow pace. What was your commentary on that?
Yeah, same as that. I thought we went very steady, and the fact that it really didn't suit him, and the fact that he won is just a sign of how good he is. So like every horse, he's going to have to build on that as well. But he's going straight to Cheltenham. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what way Quilixios fares out with Joseph O'Brien's horse at the weekend. Yeah, we get a bit of a reading off that.
Would you say jumping is probably one of his main strengths?
Yeah, without a doubt. Touchwood, he's a very sound jumper, and he's long, short or spot on. He's extremely quick through the air. So yeah, that would be one of his best assets. Yeah.
We must mention Envoi Allen, because obviously one at Punchestown. Gordon mentioned afterwards that you guys spoke and maybe potentially be up on his work in the coming weeks. Did he take a good blow at Punchestown again, or what was the thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I know it was his first run on heavy ground, but yeah, just he was obviously very impressive, but he had a bit of a blow at me, and I just thought that maybe he could be a bit fitter. So yeah, I said it to Gordon, and yeah, obviously the rest is left up to him after that. That was just my opinion. So yeah, no, it was great.
How has he been since, Jack?
He's good. Yeah, I think I've sat in him once maybe since Punchestown. Keith rides him every day at home. So he's in great out order. So yeah, it's great. He's very exciting.
Absolutely. And one horse I wanted to ask you about was Fairclass, Jack, and he ran nicely when finishing third behind Castlebawn West at Christmas at Leopardstown, and he's entered the 2.5 mile I see on Sunday. Could there be a big pot in him somewhere along the way?
Definitely, yeah. I was very impressed with his run in the Paddy Power, and I was thinking that maybe he might be the horse to ride in the TSs then, but Gordon decided to bypass that with the way the ground was, and go to Leopardstown for the 2-5 race. So I think he'll be an exciting ride in that, yeah.
Absolutely. You rode last weekend, just quickly flashing back to Grand Roi and Ascaria 10. I thought the two of them ran two solid races, and you'd have to think that they could get their heads in the winner's enclosure at some stage this season also.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Maybe Ascaria 10 might be a nice horse for the 4 miler in Cheltenham or something, but yeah, he jumps and stays well, so obviously all them things are up to Gordon, but I could see him running well in something like that, yeah.
And Grand Roi?
Yeah, I'd say there's probably a nice pot in him somewhere along the way as well. I was very happy with his run the last day, so yeah, he's a grand horse as well.
Couple of questions from Twitter, Jack. Jack Twyble asks, what horse are you most looking forward to riding this weekend?
I suppose it'd have to be Doyle to work. I'm really looking forward to getting back on him after missing out on the spin on him at Christmas. So yeah, I'm probably looking forward to him the most.
What's your feeling on Felix Deji? Can he bounce back to his full potential in your eyes? That comes in from Collie O'Brien.
Yeah, I think I can. Obviously, I suppose he's probably one of the horses as well that didn't run to his best over Christmas, and it was a funny sort of a race as well. So yeah, I can definitely see him bouncing back. Yeah, hopefully with the help of God.
And Alan McInerney asks about wide receiver. I know you have rode him this season. He is entered up at the weekend. Are we likely to see him, Jack? And do you like him?
Yeah, he's in a couple of different races, so I'm not sure what one he'll go for yet. Yeah, he's a nice horse. I suppose it took a while maybe to get the hang of him, but when the maiden hurdle in Leopardstown, then jumping out and letting him roll probably seemed to be the way to ride him. So yeah, he was very good that day. He's a nice horse.
The Kennedy brothers are no strangers now to the podcast. I want to wish you the very best of luck this weekend for Delta work, of course, in the big one, and obviously for the rest of the season.
Thanks a million.
140 at Leopardstown, 2 miles spring juvenile hurdle. It's a grade 1. No Zana here in here, but Gordon has a likeable replacement in Quilixios at 5-4. French Seal for WIllieMullins, of course, won for the Holdens and has been bought by the Donnellys 2-1. Humdor 9-2, 9-2 chance for WIllieMullins also. Bustleton 10-1, Hador 12-1, St. Sam 14-1 for WIllieMullins also, and it's 33-1. The rest, Ronan, we didn't give you the bumper, we'll give you the juveniles.
Yeah, look, it's the complexion of this changed, Barry, when Zanahiyr came out. He was going to be, I'd presume, a very short price. Quilixios still obviously is in there for Gordon and is a short price favourite. He was impressive at Down Royal, but he'll be 99 days off the track between that run and Sunday, and I think that's a slight worry going into a grade 1. And I think French Seal might be a little overrated as well, just on his impressive win at Christmas, but that's his only run so far as well. And I think there could be a bit of an upset here. I do like Humdor, who was coming to win at Fairyhouse last day when he tipped up at the last. I thought that was going to be a big run, considering Gordon's horse T Huppo went on and won by 15 lengths, and Humdor looked like he had him covered at the time. But I was quite interested in St. Sam from the Christmas race. You know, when you watch something and you kind of you think you see horses in Lucky or as an eye catcher, and you're not really sure, but then someone else kind of more respected says it, and that was the case this week when WIllieMullins thought that St. Sam was a bit of an eye catcher as well, as in he was trapped in on the rail there. They didn't go very fast at Christmas in the Zanahiyr race, and St. Sam was kind of held up, trapped in on the rail. He had to pull out like four or five horses wide in straight, and ran on when it was all over in a slowly run race from the back. I just thought it was a big run, and Willie was quite confident that the horses progressed again since that. Like with no Zanahiyr in here, he was second to that horse at Fairyhouse. Obviously well beaten, but had beat the rest of the horses quite far. So I thought he was the most interesting. Up double figure price, 14-1. I've backed him already, and I'm pleased to see a bit of money from there. These boxes are turning blue on odds checker, which is positive as well. So St. Sam for me.
Ronan, first of all, the first thing you said was you could take on Quilixios. Couldn't agree more with you. Certain people out there really building this horse up, and just interesting listening to Jack. He seems to be pretty clear that Zanahiyr is the number one. And the 99 days, like 5-4 is incredibly short for this horse. He won by 20 lengths in a Notting race. These horses in here have had a couple of runs. I mean, French Seal. I mean, if you were strictly on prices, if you were to back either Quilixios or French Seal, I've no doubt who I'd be picking. I think the Leopardstown form cut back at course and distance. But you mentioned Humdor. He was the one that interested me. I think he was certainly going to win. It would be obviously a worry the last time, but I thought he was travelling pretty well. I thought, he was Autumn Evening led him to the second last, and he was a horse that I certainly have my eye on for maybe handicaps down the line. But so I think the form of that race is not bad. Druid's Altar was in behind, but Humdor was clearly going to go and win the race. At 9-2, he would be my selection in the race. Thomas, had you thoughts?
Yeah, just every time Gordon had a maiden hurdle winner, like a juvenile winner, he always mentioned that this horse was a home for what bigger plans. I know Zanahiyr is probably number one, but every interview he had, I always heard Quilixios coming up. His name was always mentioned. Look, as we said, he didn't beat much in Down Royal, but he was visually impressive. French Seal was one of the most impressive winners. I was actually in Leopardstown that day. I actually watched the race with Jamie Codd, and Davy Russell was 10 yards in front of us. Now we're socially distanced, but even the boys were looking at each other and going, "What is that?" Because you don't see too many horses pulling away. I know the last was omitted, but he was sprinting away from the rest. The horse that was second was Dermot Wells' horse, Coulter. He went and won in Naas at the weekend. He showed guts there to win at the weekend. It might be a flash in the pan, this lad. He really, really sprinted. Dennis O'Regan rode that day. I'm sure he changed hands for plenty of money. He's gone to the right trainer. It could be Anton. Willie's other horse that Ronan mentioned, he won in Goran, but I know he won well. He bet Matthew Smith's horse, who got well stuffed in a handicap at the weekend in Naas as well, in that farce race. He got away. He was one of the horses that got away, but he was only 6th or 7th for getting all the 4-year-old allowances. So yeah, look, just for me, I'm definitely in the French Seal camp in this one. So interesting. It'll be a good race, but I think if French Seal does what he done the last day, he could end up being joint favourite for the Triumph.
You're probably right. Of course, Coulter did come out and win since. So yeah, the form looks a lot better than Quilixios, anyway. That's for sure. Mike Vince, had you any strong thoughts on this? I think it's going back to Close Sutton anyway, is it?
Well, I'm not sure that it necessarily is going back to Close Sutton, to be honest. And that's not because I think Quilixios is anything but the price. He shouldn't be the sort of price he has. He won 2 Egg and Spoon races back in the autumn, and he's been off the track for a while. The one that I actually flagged this up before it made its debut over Christmas. I like Joseph's horse here. Bustleton was second on debut, came from France, made his debut at Christmas at Leopardstown. Good second, behind Zanahiyr, but made Zanahiyr just pull out a few bits and pieces of speed. And if he's anything near a double-figure price, I reckon he's a knocking good each way bet. I actually think he might well be there or thereabouts at the finish.
Yeah, Zanahiyr. is, of course, the Triumph Hurdle favourite. And, of course, he came second, as you said, Mike, to Zana here. Speaking about Close Sutton and Colantra, it's a big jewel, of course, in the 210. It's the Chanel Farm at 2 miles Novice Hurdle, Grade 1 over 2 miles. Now, do you think Ballyadam can reverse the form with the favourite, or would you be looking at, I suppose, a horse at a bigger price in here?
I don't think he will reverse it, but the interesting thing is, after the run the last day, that Gordon did say Ballyadam had scoped wrong, so you would expect an awful lot of improvement from that run at Christmas. Look, bar the top two, there's not a whole lot. That Master McShee, he's entering a lot of races in handicaps and everything over the weekend. So, look, for a small trainer like the Corkeries, it's great to have a horse like that. And he really brought one lad we probably never talked about this, but Ian Power, who was out at the door. I don't know how long he wasn't riding for, because he was in with Noel Meads. He was number 2 to Paul Carberry for a few years. He's no spring chicken now. I hope he doesn't mind me saying. But,
he's nearly as old as you.
He definitely is older than me. But
he doesn't have much more ball patches now. I can see a couple creeping in there. Thomas Coyle.
I wouldn't mind. I haven't even got the haircut for a while. But yeah, no, fair play to him, and you really seen he got a kick out of that big winner at Christmas as well. But fair play to him to come back, and yeah, he's another interesting horse, but I don't think he'll turn up against these two. For me, it's appreciated. I hope Ballyadam gives him a race, and I would expect him if everything's going right that he will. But I'd say Willie's horse is just a better horse.
Ronan Groome, 4 to 6, appreciated. He's had 2 runs in his life over hurdles. He is a 7-year-old. He's obviously a cracking horse. Is he a bit short back at 2 miles? Now, I know the soft and heavy ground, he's obviously a course winner. Is he a small bit maybe too short, strictly on price? Would you be looking for one maybe at a bigger price?
No, I can't really see by him, Barry, to be honest. I mean, like, what price? He'd probably back him at 6 to 4 or 5 to 4, so he deserves to be money on in my book. And like, he's at Leopardstown, where he has I think he's 3 from 3, isn't he? He's won over the course and distance. He was really impressive at Christmas. Soft ground, I can't really see by him. And the thing with Ballyadam is, even if he does show up today, I actually think the form of his Royal Bond is really, really average. He beat Caskmate there. And then Golo, you know, how far away is Ngolo from Appreciate down at Close Sutton? I would imagine he's not that close to him. Look, the one horse in behind Appreciate that caught my eye at Christmas was the second Irascible. I thought he was, it was only like his second start over hurdles and the second track start, and he was a bit novice-y, but he really came through in the last kind of 2 furlongs in a row, 3 furlongs of the race. I'm not sure if that was like the penny kind of dropping with him. But he didn't have a clear run either, but he really did pick up well, and he was a clear second in the end. Didn't get close to Appreciate it, but he'd be the one I'd be looking at maybe each way or without the favourite to run a race, but I can't really see by Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd love to see Appreciate it win. I think he's by far the most likely winner, and I'd like to see him go and do it. But if there was to pick one, maybe at an each way price, when there was 2 in here, one was Kescon Risk, but I think he's probably up against it, especially given the ground. I'm not entirely sure. The one that interests me for this race at the prices was Blue Lord. I think, again, I mentioned in the same race, the Lawlers at Naas, he was incredibly keen this day, and I think back to 2 miles is going to suit him. He's 8 to 1 if he goes in here. If he takes his place, I think he's interesting. He's had a 25-day break for it, and I think he is a class horse. I think back in trip it is going to suit him, and I am interested in him maybe each way at 8 to 1. Mr. Vincinator.
I'm, as you know, my friends know, I am a man of few words, and you're going to get 2 of them. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I'll just add, I did quite like the way Wild Receiver won he won the opening race of the festival, didn't he? And he might just go well at a good price, but this has got Close Sutton, Appreciate it, written all over it. One of the best pictures of the Christmas festival at Leopardstown was after the last, when the Leopardstown team were trying to get all the trophies into Willie's boot for the drive home. I should have asked him when I spoke to him earlier in the week whether he was bringing a bigger car this time. But appreciated. I think he's one of his best bets of the weekend.
8 to 11 now with Paddy Bowers. Appreciated. Lads, coming on to the Flowgas Novice Chase, the Grade 1. It's the 310 at Leopardstown on Sunday. Latest exhibition, Monkfish, round 2. Thomas Coyle, speaking about best bets of the weekend, Monkfish, WIllieMullins. Certainty. He is in my book.
Yeah, he is, and you couldn't see latest exhibition turning around from the last couple of runs. I'm going to think a little bit outside the box here, and I'm going to put up Andy Dufresne. I'm going to give him a chance. He's 2 blotches on his copybook as it is. 1 to latest exhibition in Navan, where everyone thought he couldn't be bet. And look, latest exhibition is a good horse, and look, there wasn't much in it either that day. And then he was bet. I think Jason de Middleton bet him, but that was over 2 mile. I think this is his proper trip, 2.5 mile. He's won like 4 out of 6 of his races. He's not a bad racehorse. I know the two losses he has, people probably don't forgive him for it, but I think he's more of a chance of beating Monkfish than latest exhibition does of turning it around. That's how I look at it. I can't see Nolan's horse beating Monkfish after the runs that they've had against each other, where you're bringing Andy Dufresne into it. Wasn't much in between them in that hurdle run, and even at that, Gordon was disappointed that Paul's horse bet him. So on that, I'm going to put up Andy Dufresne.
Imagine Jerry Hannon if Andy Dufresne gets up to meet Monkfish. Andy. Do you remember that comment? Do you remember that commentary? Was it the Moscow Flyer, Ronan Groome? What's your thoughts on this race?
I kind of with you, Barry, providing that what I said about the ground earlier on, if it's dried out, I probably wouldn't want to be back in Monkfish back at 2.5 on slightly quicker ground. I think he's, you're talking about him as a Gold Cup horse. I think that's the type of test he needs. 3 miles of soft ground would be hit more his kettle of fish. But if it did get quicker, or was yielding or something like that, Janadil would be the one I'd be interested in. I thought he was much better than he showed at Limerick. He didn't really jump at all there, and it might have been the heavy ground that didn't suit him. But coming up and trip, I think, is significant for him. Remember, he took a massive step up and trip last season when he was kind of running in 2 mile. He won the big 2 mile handicap hurdle at Fairyhouse, and then went right up and trip for the Alba Bartlett and finished 5th, not beaten that far by Monkfish in latest exhibition. I thought he was really good on his debut at Naas. He beat loads of next time out winners, the likes of Longhouse Poet, January Jets, Espinito Bello, Mr. Hendricks, even the 6th. They all won again, and Janadil beat them quite easily that day. So I just think he's better than he showed at Limerick. And if the ground was a little bit drier than it is now, and as I said earlier on, don't be surprised with how Leopardstown kind of dries out. The chase track there that has probably the best drainage system in the country, which is a negative, according to some people. But I wouldn't be surprised if it did, and if it does, Janadil would interest me around 8 to 1.
Yeah, you could be right on that, Ronan, because I don't know where you are, but we actually had a great evening here this evening, and we didn't get the rain we were supposed to. And tomorrow is fairly dry as well, and Saturday as well. So when you see, you said the chase course can be very deceiving because it's heavy on the hurdle course, but it's not even mentioned on the chase course. And whatever way it does drain, it drains that way. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be surprised if Yelin wasn't mentioned somewhere in the going by Saturday.
Monkfish would beat Envoi Allen over 2.5 miles. I'm certain of it. Absolutely. Anyone wants to argue with that, come down in the comments. We'll get you underneath. I think, listen, do you remember the start of the year? I think we were chatting in the group and I mentioned them potentially for the Marsh chase. Now, ever since Envoi Allen won the Ballymore, people have, the amount of dockets going around for Envoi Allen for the Marsh, obviously he's a crack. I just think Monkfish is a better horse. I think, as Ted Walsh says, a good horse to win in any trip. I would have absolutely no issues with him going back to 2.5 miles. I think he's the most exciting horse in training after Energumene. Yeah, no. Listen, I think no problem at all. The only thing I would say, yeah, right. I think was what Ronan said was the ground. The only thing about Monkfish, and he's yet to prove it on better ground. So it'd be interesting to see if it did come up maybe good at the festival. I don't think it will be an issue to him, but he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it on good ground. All his wins, even at Cheltenham last year, was on a more of a softer surface. But yeah, I think he's an absolute machine, Monkfish. Lads, coming on to the Irish Gold Cup, 340 at Leopardstown, soft ground. It's only a 5-runner race, lads. Manila Endo, Ronan Groome will come to you because he's your idea of the Gold Cup winner 2021. And look, he obviously fell last time. Would it be a worry? I'll give you a quick show betting for 6-4, Manila Endo, Kenboy 5-2, Melon 10-3, Delta Work 9-2, and 16-1 the Storyteller. Thoughts? Would you be worried with the fall?
Yeah, I would be, Barry. And I'd be more worried about Manila Endo's general form this season. Like, it just really hasn't gone to plan. And I backed them for the Gold Cup early in the season, and I'm still hopeful about that. I think 3 miles, 2 furlongs at Cheltenham is what he needs. But I'd be very worried with Allaho is the closest link to Manila Endo's form. He's been linked to that horse all his life, basically, and was second. They finished more or less alongside each other in the RSA, and Allaho was well beaten in the Savills at Christmas and hasn't really looked great this season, I have to say. I know he won the next start, but I don't think that was huge form in the context of this race. And I actually kind of want to take on Melon and Indo here at the prices. And I think Melon is the most interesting horse in the race. I thought he ran huge in the Savills. I think he took off with Patrick Mullins down the back, and WIllieMullins talked about it as much on Monday on the press conference. And he sounds pretty confident that they can get him to settle a bit better this time, Melon. And if they do, I think he has to have a huge chance. Given how far, like, he went 5 lengths in front of Kenboy coming out the back straight, and still was pitching in there, jumping the last with that horse, and was only beaten 2 lengths in the end by Absolute Card. I thought that was a huge run. And considering that he's been running over 2 miles, 2.5 miles, it's probably not a surprise that he ran so keenly. But as I said, WIllieMullins thinks they can get him to settle a bit better this time. He's pretty confident of the fact. And if they do, I think he'll win this race. If he just gets a nicer run through and can kind of save a bit of energy towards the end. I know he's been in a nearly horse a lot of the time, but he's been second in a couple of champion hurdles, and he's only actually won 3 times for WIllieMullins. He's a 9-year-old now, but I just loved his run at Christmas. I thought it was huge, and if he can improve from that, I think he could take all the beating.
Mike Vince in the Cheltenham previews, and there was a bit of jip coming underneath in some of the comments. You are a fan of Kenboy, and you won't have anyone say anything else.
Oh, well, I was a fan of Kenboy, particularly of Kenboy and David Mullins. And we're talking now, and we're not. Who rides which of these two has not been confirmed. And Kenboy's not an easy ride. And the other thing that concerns me is this is a very small field, and it could actually, who will make the pace here? I'm fascinated. It is not an easy race to weigh up at all. If Patrick's on Melon, I think he'll win. I think Patrick obviously gets on with the horse. You think back to Cheltenham last year, and he gave him a hell of a ride and just got burgled had the burglars in right on the line. And none of us have mentioned Delta Work, of course, who comes alive at this place, having won this last year. I just think it's a horrible race because it's a small field, trying to work out the possibles. Do we assume that Pete Townend is on Kenboy and Patrick's on Melon? I haven't got a clue. Does Townend turn up on Melon? Difficult. If you push me, I'll go Melon, but I'm not interested in it as a betting race at all.
It's going to be very simple. Melon's going to jump off in front, and he's going to get a freebie. In the Savills the last time, there was 12, 13 runners. There was 2, 3 wanting to make it. they're gonna let him off. He's gonna bounce off in front, get settled, and I genuinely don't think they're gonna get near him. I agree 100% with Ronan. His you really had to like that run, but I think this race is gonna suit him more with less runners, because there's not going to be that argy-bargy up front, people taking each other on. And then I'd be with Mike as well. I'll imagine Patrick will get another go on him. But I think it's just going to be kept very simple. Pop him out in front, get a couple of lengths, get him to drop the bit, and turn in and give him a kick. And I genuinely don't think nothing will get upsides him. He's probably. I'm going to probably nap him for the weekend, to be honest. I think he'll win.
Yeah.
Nearly a full house for Melon, lads, because I agree with you, Thomas Coyle, Mike Vince and Ronan Groome. It is a full house. What am I saying? I'm the last one standing here on Melon. And it was interesting, actually, straight away after the march last year, WIllieMullins, no hesitation, up and trip. He had no doubt in his mind that this horse was going to be better at 3 miles and plus. And if you looked at the march last year, he made most of the running in the march. Jumped like a buck, obviously loves Cheltenham, was very unlucky not to win, and you were thinking he got collar. God, did he see it out as well? But as you said, Thomas, it's the angle of that he is going from the front here. It's a small field, and if ever it was a race for him to break his duct over 3 miles and plus, it's this race, and it's all probably set up for him. And at the price is 10-3, I think he's good value.
Yeah, flat as well, and the fact that it's not going to be heavy either as well. It'll help him get home as well. He ticks all the boxes. I genuinely think just Patrick, dump him out in front and just, you have his number there, Barry. Give him a buzz there and tell him keep it simple.
Keep it simple, yeah. Do you know what though? What would that say for that Plutard? Does he shorten then off the back of that? He obviously probably does, and I just think a Plutard is a great bet for the Gold Cup at the moment at 9-1. Thomas Coyle, anything across the water for you?
I've nothing across the water, but I just want to give a mention to one mare in the bumper in Leopardstown on Sunday. It's a mare that we actually broke here at home. She's Brooklyn Glory. She's 2 from 2 for WIllieMullins. She done it workman-like first time down in Listowel, but she was very impressive in Cork the last time. She's a lovely big mare. She's 16-2. She's all there. We had her here for a couple of months. She wasn't the easiest to handle. She runs now with a hood and a cross noseband and a tongue tie, or a chiffney, sorry. But we always kind of said at home, if she could be contained and could bring all that energy to the track, she'd be a good one. And we've heard that she won both on heavy ground, and we kind of thought maybe that's what she's good. But the word coming back from the lads is that Willie says she'd be better on a bit nicer ground. So look, he's 4 or 5 in it. She has an entry in the champion bumper as well, so which isn't a bad thing. But if she runs, I'll have my eyes firmly on her for Sunday, and I wish the boys all the best of luck.
She's a bit mental, was she?
I think it took us nearly a week to get her back. We were lying across her, and Cahill, that rides for me, she was doing donuts around the stable. We couldn't leg across her, and I just swinging out of her, trying to keep her going round in circles. He was like Batman hanging out the back of the saddle at times off her, so he was. We've actually never. She was only riding a few weeks, and she was doing more than fit horses, and she come in, and I remember one day she took off through the field, and Cahill finally got her pulled up. He was white as a sheet, and he said, I don't know what this is. And as he turned, it took off again with him. So we kind of always knew there was something under there if it could be contained, and there's no better man than WIllieMullins to get every bit of that out of her. So hopefully for the lads, she'll run and do the business.
That concludes episode 15 of the Champ.ie podcast, lads. Best of luck at the Dublin Racing Festival this weekend. And Mike Vince, did you say you have a horse in Germany?
I've got many horses in Germany I've got to look at for Sunday, but more than that, in Germany on Sunday it's a case of the hare is running, 14 of them in the big race, but then we'll enjoy the Dublin Racing Festival. So we have a very good weekend. And above all, let's see whether Willie can get all that silverware into the boot of his car.
Keep that halo straight, Mike Vince. Lads, see you next week.